Hello, lovelies. I hope everyone is feeling fine, and I thank you for watching. Auntie has a different sort of tale tonight. It's more personal, but it's still quite scary. You'll see. Auntie mentioned a few videos ago that I was going to be a horror host on DNGN Radio, or Dungeon Radio as they're also called. Their links will be in my descriptions from now on, so please go check them out. Lots of amazing shows and hosts over there, and Auntie's excited to be one of them. However, there are others also excited about the show for very different and much darker reasons. But I'll get to that later. The fine folks at DNGN Radio says to me, "Auntie, what are you about? What's your backstory? We need a bio. Why are you known as Auntie Creeps? Are you an auntie?" Well, I do have a backstory, lovelies, and I must come clean about it. Before I write it up nice and neat and send it to them, I must tell you first. You deserve to know. Auntie has mentioned her cottage. Auntie indeed lives in a cottage in the middle of a forest, almost like out of a fairy tale. But it's not as idyllic as I've made out. Oh, my cottage is adorable, but it sits in the scariest forest you can imagine. Living all around me in this forest are terrible, foul, and horrifying things. There's ghosts and demons. I can hear them howl at night, along with the werewolves when the moon is full. I think there's vampires out there too. I've seen bats anyway. There's also indescribable monsters and zombies and, oh yeah, we can't forget the human monsters, often the scariest of all, the psychopaths. There's quite a few of them around too, living in cabins and shacks while they plan to do their fellow humans as much damage as possible. I've ran into some of them on my walks, during the daytime, of course, when the others aren't quite as active. So far, they just nod and let me pass, but they really scare me. But Auntie, aren't you terrified to live there? Why don't you move? You may ask. And that's a fair question, but the answer is simple. They won't let me. The dolls, you see? The little divas who insisted I use them as my avatar? Oh, they really are Auntie's dolls. I've had them since I was very small, but they're possessed by demons now, moving around all the time. I had such a hard time getting their pictures snapped. They're always watching me. I know what they're doing. They're keeping an eye on me to make sure I deliver on my end of the bargain. I'm getting ahead of myself. What bargain? Well, lovelies, by the time I'd realized the kind of neighbors I had, it was too late. They'd ensnared me by the beauty of the little cottage that Auntie simply had to have. And each of them came to me, rattling my doors and windows, whispering terrible things all through the night. Of course I was terrified, but I really have no need to fear them right now because of the bargain. You see, one of the ghosts was very friendly and meant no harm at all. He's only able to communicate with Auntie through an old-fashioned AIM chat, and we chat every Saturday night without fail. He has a tragic and scary backstory himself, but that's for another time, when he's ready for me to tell it. Anyway, his name is Jason, and he's so fond of the old Friday the 13th movies that he took the handle Crazy Ralph the 13th for his YouTube channel. Yes, the ghost has a YouTube channel. Link below, lovelies. Check him out too. Lots of fun stuff there. Anyway, you fans of Friday the 13th will remember the old man who tried to warn the ill-fated teens of the death curse of Camp Crystal Lake. Even though my ghost's name is already Jason, he just loved Crazy Ralph, so. He was so fond of me that he started calling me Auntie. Not Auntie Creeps, just Auntie. The Creeps part came later. I consider him my nephew now, even if he is a ghost. He's also a little too fond of the masked killers in this forest and likes to hang out with them. But he's very sweet himself and would never harm a soul. One night, he told me that there was a way I could keep the awful things in this forest from bothering me. And that was to tell all of you stories about them. To horrify you. Scare you as badly as I could, and cause you to have nightmares if possible. He said if I listened to the terrifying whispers outside my window, instead of putting my pillow over my head, I'd be able to make out their stories, then tell them to you, my poor lovelies. I really didn't like the idea. I'm not a bad person. In fact, I adore my visitors, and like my ghost nephew, would never harm a soul. But nightmares can't really hurt you, right? And if you listen to my tales, it will keep the dark things away from me. And you. Part of the bargain was that no harm come to my dear visitors, either on their way to my cottage or on their way home through that terrible haunted forest. And no harm will come to me either, as long as I continue. So yes, you can imagine how happy my awful neighbors were to hear the news that I'd be spreading their tales to a bigger audience. More lovelies, more nightmares. And they will continue to grow stronger as they feed off your fears. I'm really sorry, kids, but this is what I'm being forced to do. But still, there's no reason we can't enjoy it. In fact, I think Auntie might enjoy it a little too much at this point. Some people think I'm nice and sweet, and I am. I love all of you. But yet, there's a dark side to me, I realize now. Because scaring you has just become too much fun. My nephew has gotten into the spirit of it all quite nicely. He so wants to protect his auntie that he keeps telling me stories too. In fact, he told me the story of the Sopranos' alternate ending and insisted I write it down and tell it as a warning. He knows of other such tapes and lost episodes, not the ones you've heard of before, like Dead Bart and Squidward Suicide and Slender Man. No, these are things that I haven't heard of before, as well as other stories and ideas that just won't stop coming at him, faster than Auntie has been able to tell them so far. So, stay tuned for those. He's got a dark imagination, this one. Or is it just ghost knowledge? Well, there you have it, lovelies. I never meant to deceive you. and I truly do want to entertain you with these dark tales. My intentions aren't really bad. Maybe your own dark sides needs to hear them as much as mine loves telling them. I don't know. It's a question for greater minds than mine. But either way, I hope you continue listening and tell your friends, as many as you can lure. I mean tell. And I'll continue. If I try to leave or stop, it will make them very angry. There's really no way out for me. So please, keep visiting Auntie's cottage. Her sanity and her very life may depend on it. Well, I'll say goodnight for now, my lovelies. And as always, sweet dreams.